I gotta address this right off the bat. I got a goatee to play a character in a movie, so that's the elephant in the room right now. Nothing else about this is weird right now. It's not like there's just a dude behind me. It's not like there's a guy just waiting over here.
Is some jerk making your life miserable?
Alright, so in today's video, I'm going to be watching all 10 of the Best Picture nominees for this year and ranking them as I go along. But I'll go in alphabetical order so that you don't really know, you know?
A do-rag?
Do-rag, that's it. Do-rag and a tank top with the muscles showing.
American Fiction is a film that won't win very many Oscars, about the kind of black stories that don't win very many Oscars. I already have a conversation about this film up right now on Misrable with my friend and fellow film student, Stanley. So check that out if you are so inclined. That video was basically our first impressions of the film. We shot it right after we saw the movie. So a quick summary of that video is we loved it. We weren't expecting anything in particular when we went to watch this movie. I kind of just dragged him along because I knew I wanted to make a video about all the Best Picture nominations. And we ended up loving it so much that we shot that conversation right after, even though that wasn't really a plan at all. I've realized I still love it, but I think certain parts kind of left less of a lasting impression on me than I thought they would. That's kind of just a consequence of what happens when you make something that's super heavy in the moment, that really throws you through the motions, because it just might not sit the same way afterwards. And although some of how much I loved it has faded away, I don't want to be confusing here. This is still one of my favorite movies of 2023. As a writer-director debut, there are a couple of amateurish moments, but director Cord Jefferson managed to adapt this 2000s novel so well to the 2020s, and also got some of the best performances I've seen in a long time. Jeffrey Wright and Sterling K. Brown are competing against insanely stacked lists this year, so I don't think they're necessarily the best of 2023, or that they deserve those Oscars, but they do deserve their flowers as the first pair of black actor and supporting actor from the same film to get Oscar nominations, I think, ever. So, great performances, a phenomenally witty script, but some melodrama and amateurish moments drag it down a bit. In my ranking of the nominations, American Fiction lands at Anatomy of a Fall follows Angela Merkel trying to prove that she didn't kill her husband, Pierre Elliott Trudeau.
I'm innocent, you know that, right?
Anatomy of a Fall is whatever the opposite of a voyeurist film is. It's so intentional with everything that you see, and especially with a blind supporting character, the son of the main woman on trial for murder. It seems like vision was built into the ground layer of this film.
Considering he might have just been murdered, that's definitely a negative. I mean, I wouldn't be happy.
There's the occasional comedic beat, especially in the courtroom, and that may seem like it would throw you off, but it honestly just heightens the realism of the film. And also, I hate the French as much as the next guy, but this had such an unnaturally fire score, with the most important song recurring in the film being a Caribbean cover of 50 Cent's 2003 PIMP off Get Rich or Die Trying. That's just like, it's such a fucking weird choice, but it's so fun. There are two moments where Sandra Hüller's performance shines through as one of the best I've seen in a while. First is the fight. I don't want to spoil too much, but you know what I'm talking about if you've seen the film. Sandra Hüller just channels this volatility and taps into this bag of just sheer rage in this scene that works so well on both a subtle and overt level. And second is a far more understated scene. In this scene, she's in the courtroom delivering a monologue about how she felt after her son's accident. And it's not weepy or preachy or rage-filled. It's subtle acting at its best, and she just does it so well. I'm very biased towards performances that balance subtlety with violence, the rage with the morose. And this second example of her acting just fits this perfectly. While Hüller's performance is incredible, I have to acknowledge that the child actor in this movie, the guy who plays the son, he's 15, he looks way younger than that. But this might be the best child performance since Enzo Staiola in Bicycle Thieves. It's so good! It's so stupidly good. And I thought the kid was 11 at the time when I was watching it, so it's a bit less impressive even that he's like a teenager. I thought he's like a little kid. But it just goes to show how important a good director is. Triet does such a good job of extracting the performance from this kid, but also somehow gets a great performance out of the fucking dog in this movie. I think that just shows you like how far a good director can go with this goddamn interspecies acting direction. I was totally caught up in this film's buzz right after I finished it, much like American Fiction, and I was like, this is the best film I've ever seen. And as I think about it more, it is very, very good, but it definitely throws you through the motions just like American Fiction. So as you think about it after, you're going to have a slightly different view of it. Right now, most of what sits with me about this film is the performances more than the story. And in the moment, the gripping nature of a courtroom thriller just has you in a chokehold. So because of that, I think these performances make me want to put Anatomy of a Fall in the rank of my nominations at... Okay, let me be positive for like 10 seconds before I get a little angry.
Ideas live forever.
With great production design and fun set pieces, Barbie was a very enjoyable viewing in theaters back in spring break. But look, Barbie does not deserve to be on the Best Picture list any more than any other blockbuster in the past. It is, in my opinion, not much better than Wonder Woman or Captain America. And hey, feminism, man. I support that shit. But can we be a little bit more nuanced and ask some more of our female-centric films to give us a real message? There's a paradox at the center of this film. Either it is a serious feminist text that is deserving of discourse and debate, or it's a fun movie about a little girl's toy. Or, you know, I mean, sometimes I used to play with my sister's Barbies. Maybe a little child's toy. And so, with this paradox, if you choose to interrogate the film's themes, it means you're anti-fun and shitting on something for women. And on the other hand, if you choose to treat it like something cute and just a fun movie that you can go watch with your little sisters and nieces and daughters, then you're minimizing a great feminist work of art. Any coherent extended metaphor that people have tried to pull out of this film, whether it's that Kens equal women in the world of Barbie, or it's really just an allegory for when boys grow up and discover how the patriarchy actually favors them as they kind of enter like puberty and become like young men. These things kind of fall apart at any point that you try to track it. If you want a serious exploration of femininity and or feminism, go watch Killers of the Flower Moon, which shows what happens when violence against Indigenous women is so normalized. Or, if you want to see one by a female writer-director, watch Anatomy of a Fall by Justine Triet, and she's literally up for Best Director. And if you're going to come at me with some aspect of Barbie that I missed in my analysis...
how the fuck did I miss that?
You don't give a fuck.
I have a reel up about the debate around the snubs of this film as well, so check that out if you're interested. But anyways, in my ranking of the nominations, Barbie lands at...
The hell does that mean?
Not cross the Rubicon.
The Holdovers.
The Holdovers is about 45 minutes too long, and has a DP and editor that are really good, but support this fundamentals of screenwriting 101-ass script. There are quite a few parts I like about it. The last 20 minutes are very good, but I'll save that for after some unnecessary, patented, miserable hating. It goes for this retro look in title design and editing that was apparent from the very first trailer. And it's well done, but it's still pretty obvious that it's not shot on film. So, just shoot it on film. I don't know if I'm kind of, I'm just an idiot. I wasn't there when y'all were like deciding what you wanted to shoot this on, but come on. I genuinely thought the reason for this look and vibe and setting as a period piece would be for something. Literally anything other than just a pastiche. Whether it's a parody or something more like farcical, or if it's something that treats it with more reverence and is observing kind of how film has changed since the 70s. And instead we just get a movie that happens to be in the 70s. And for me, I care a lot about purposeful decisions. And so you may be cool with that. And I'm not going to hate on you if you think that a film making a certain strong creative choice just for fun is a good enough reason to do. But I don't. And this is miserable. So this all sort of tracks with my main, larger problem with this film. And that is, this is what we in the business call a point and remember film. It's designed for whatever generation it's pitched at to point and say, I remember that. But okay, this isn't a soulless film, unlike one I'm getting to later. It's a point and remember, but it has a soul to it. And that soul is just one character, Mary. Played so excellently by Davon Joy Randolph, Mary is a grieving mother that should be the focus of this film. The rest of the supporting actresses in the nominees list for this year genuinely look like fourth graders in a production of Frog and Toad when put next to Davon. It's such an honest performance that's so realistic, but yet, because of the time period, has these little idiosyncrasies that make it so enjoyable to watch anyways. Here's the way I make up for all my hating. I'm gonna give you a solution. You know, I don't just point out problems. You know, I'm a writer. You know, I'm a guy out here. I got ideas. I think I, or anyone, hey, just as much as the next guy, could re-edit this film to about 90 minutes. To center it around Mary. And that's better for two reasons. First, it makes the 70s pastiche relevant. We are making a film, this version, is now about the kind of character that never would have gotten a film in the 70s. A grieving black mother in a boarding school where all the white kids are the ones having fun shenanigans who would get a movie, but now we're centering it on a woman working in the kitchen. Someone disadvantaged because she lost her husband at such a young age. And second, this is better because a lot of the weaker writing moments for me come from the back and forth between Angus and whatever the hell Paul Giamatti's name. I like Paul Giamatti's performance quite a bit, but the kid is not that good. No hate to him. He seems kind of young. He's an interesting looking guy. He looks like he's from the 70s. That's pretty cool.
We're gonna get him out of there. He wasn't never amounting to shit anyway.
But the real version of the film, in my ranking of the nominations, lands at...
I mean, it's alright, like... overrated as fuck, in my opinion. I mean...
Expecting a miracle to make all this go away. You know they don't happen anymore.
Killers of the Flower Moon is one of the most important films out right now. I hate sentences like that, but I genuinely think it's true in this scenario. Scorsese, one of the greatest living American directors, chose to elevate a story of anti-indigenous violence, one against Osage women. A story that would never get mainstream attention if a director like Scorsese didn't choose to highlight. And look, that's a problem. Obviously, it would be great if Osage directors or writers could be the ones to get the money and get the eyes on this story. But in modern America, that's not possible. And so it's just so good. Good for society, good for the world that Scorsese did this. Okay, now on the actual movie. Lily Gladstone and Robert De Niro gave the two best performances in their respective categories this year, I think. In fact, I think De Niro gave one of his best performances in this in like 30 years, man. I haven't seen The Irishman. Maybe that is good, like better than this, but this was just so incredible. De Niro just leverages his star persona in such an interesting way. However, I do have some problems with the third act of this film and how he just chooses to pace and center this story, which is kind of one of my biggest problems with the film overall, and not to spoil, but like why it's not totally at my top. But I do like that Jesse Plemons kind of shows up in the middle and just knocks and has a little joke. And just kind of lingers around for the rest of the movie. He's just kind of there.
Me? Just hanging around.
I think the ending where Scorsese appears is a great acknowledgement of his own limitations as a white storyteller and of the inherent exploitation of true crime media. However, I think it could have covered more of the plot. And I think the film loses me when it stops being about justice and starts being about punishment. And this is why I don't think that calling this film long properly encapsulates what I think is wrong with the end, kind of the last 45 minutes of this film. I think it's just a poor choice of centering the story. This film is also beautiful. There's a shot where De Niro makes his guys burn his field, and you just see this fire, and it's intercut with Molly Burkhart kind of entering this deeper stage of illness, and it's just such a beautiful sequence. And maybe this ranking will go up as I get older and as I give this film rewatches, but as of right now, some of those problems in centering really take this film down for me. So in my ranking of the nominations, it lands at... I'm not going to be talking about Maestro for very long. This film is just heartless. People have complained about films being Oscar bait before, but this is just egregious. I can praise the lighting in the black and white portion of this film and the production design in the color portion of this film, but it's such an empty movie. Cooper gives one of his most okay performances ever. I was just so underwhelmed by this film. Just didn't do anything for me. In my ranking of the nominations, it lands at...
That shit was trash, my nigga. You consistently drop the trash. Get this nigga his props.
When I first saw this film, I was a little underwhelmed. I won't lie. I know that's like the opposite of the vast majority of people who saw this film in theaters. And I liked it, but I've never been one to super fall into spectacle. I think anyone who really, really loved Oppenheimer should definitely check out Nope and think about what Nope is saying. The highlights in this film for me are how well Nolan balances the timelines, the sound design, and pretty much every performance. A very small detail, but I love how Alden Ehrenreich's character switches from this clever but loyal aide to someone just coming for RDJ.
I'm coming for that ass. Pause.
The tortured J. Robert Oppenheimer character study is interesting, but I just think on a thematic level, it's not saying anything bold or new about the war or the bomb or anything else. And I've had conversations about this film with people before, and I guess it's just how I choose to evaluate certain films and what elements of a film I care about more. And for me, meaning and theme, like I was saying about before with the holdovers, about purpose, choices really matter to me. And I don't know how much Oppenheimer changed how I thought. I didn't walk out of the theaters feeling that. It was this magnificent, huge film. And when it was all said and done, I didn't feel a different way about the bomb. If Oppenheimer's very soft core themes made you introspect about America's legacy, I think you need to interrogate American history a little more, because this barely scratched the surface. The last line of this movie is also so groan-worthy, man. I believe we have, man. Get your stupid ass out of here, bro. Nolan needs to go hit up Billy Wilder to learn how to write a last line in the movie. Okay, but I mean, I like it. This isn't a bad movie. I didn't get into the hype cycle that everyone else got into. And so for that reason, in my ranking of the nominations, Oppenheimer lands at...
Do they understand it?
Past Lives is a beautiful, beautiful film that manages emotional payoffs so well through this methodical script.
Want you to stay. Want you to stay.
Alright, different day, same thing. I love a script that can make even the simplest things huge payoffs, and a conversation being the most cathartic thing is so cool. And Celine's song, you killed that shit. It's also a grave error that Greta Lee did not get a nomination for Best Actress. She took this role in such stride for someone who mainly did TV acting, and I don't want to minimize her work as being just good for someone who did TV. It's just a masterclass. The film also functions as a tale of immigration, a feeling of listlessness in a land that's only half yours, just as well as it functions as a rom-dram. I love that Hae Sung says she's turned her back on us as the ferry spins around the Statue of Liberty. With a great script, magnificent composition, and a notably beautiful score, this is how I like my realistic filmmaking. You just feel it. deep in your heart. In my ranking of the nominations, Past Lives lands at
12, I was all alone, I can't be compromised.
I have a reel up on the Misrable Instagram, not to promote, literally just, it was like my first impressions of this movie, and even since then, it's grown off me even more.
Oh.
I wasn't very positive in the reel, but this film is like, I'm not fucking with it. I like the dinner scenes and all these moments when Bella makes the kind of middle finger at polite society.
No, it's too early for that. We haven't even had our foie gras yet.
I don't know. There's like a speck in this film. Stone, Dafoe, Carmichael, Yusuf, and Abbott all had great performances. But in service of what? Emma Stone called this film a twisted fairy tale. And with that understanding, I think I know exactly what Lanthimos was going for. And I realized I don't think I like what Lanthimos goes for. I haven't seen The Lobster or Killing of a Sacred Deer, but this is where my biases are going to come in. I kind of have like a zero tolerance policy for weird stuff like pedophilia and incest. I can't get over it to enjoy a film, no matter what it's trying to say. And maybe I'll get over that as I kind of explore more, but Oedipus is really as far as I'm willing to go before I draw the line and say this shit is disgusting. For the whole movie, I could not get over that Emma Stone was a child. The lessons of female agency and sexual freedom just reek of Eurocentric feminism. And the comedic beats, I'm really about to get insulting here. The comedic beats borderline on Family Guy cutaway gag type humor. People have been praising this film's production design, but it's just Art nouveau riche look is just so gaudy and gross. It just puts me off. Looking at the sky, anytime they show the sky, yuck, man. When Bella first masturbated, I genuinely was... I think that review got really emotional. I don't think I held my cool there. If you like this film, I'm glad. You know, if you enjoyed it, I'm glad you could get past pedophilia. In my ranking of the nominations, Poor Things lands at. The film exists almost entirely in wides, shot and with the pace of an Ozu film lifted from off the ground. It's no more about the inner lives of SS officers as it is about those trapped in Auschwitz. You're disconnected from all of it, from its true meaning, from its effect. It more asks you to consider how much atrocity you let go by in the background of your day-to-day mundane life, and less to interrogate the sins of the king and queen of Auschwitz. Starring Sandra Hüller in her second best performance in a Best Picture nomination, the film features a plethora of performances that could be described as excellent but should be described as functional. The Zone of Interest isn't a traditional movie, it's an affront to the very act of filmmaking, begging the question, to what degree can you depict atrocity with justice and fairness? Perhaps the very idea of putting a lens up to a genocide is wrong from its conception. Perhaps, when it's not documentary, these events serve better as background, as billowing smoke on the edge of your skyline, or sudden noises that interrupt your sleep. It's more thought-provoking than definitive, and it can't be ranked or rated. I'm very glad I watched this one last, and it's last in this video, because it just hurts. There's not much to laugh or talk about once you've seen this film. So I'm not ranking this in my nominations, but Zone of Interest is.